Welcome to Awakening Soul Divinity, your sacred space for deep healing and transformation. Listen to inspiring conversations with healing experts, spiritual guides, and teachers as we explore ancient wisdom, modern healing, and powerful stories of change. I'll also share practical insights from my personal journey, from spiritual crisis to inner purpose. Whether you're seeking to overcome anxiety, embrace your true nature, or awaken your higher self, this podcast offers guidance to help you transform your life and elevate collective consciousness. Hey everyone, I'm Caroline Rena, and welcome to the Awakening Soul Divinity podcast. I'm so happy that you're here, and today I have Cassi Eubank with me, and I want to welcome you, Cassi. I'm so excited that you decided to join me on this journey. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I know you do such amazing work with just elevating people's spirit and energy by sharing great information, and I am honored to be here in this beautiful place and space that you have set up. So thank you for the sacred space that you've made available for all of us.
Aw, thank you so much, Cassi. I do my best. So I think we'll start the conversation with, can you tell us about the kind of work that you do? Just a little short blurb, because we're going to go into a bit more later, but just what your basic information, your elevator speech.
Okay, well, my elevator speech is really to ask other people about them, because really it is all about other people. But because you asked that question, I help people get the mindset they need to live their best life. That's the short of it. And, there's a couple of groups that I just love working with and helping them with transformation. But so much of our life and the way that we live and perceive life and engage in life comes from the way that we think and our mindset. And when we can shift that, we can change our entire life. We can go from ordinary to extraordinary. And I'm very passionate about that.
I know. We've had a couple of conversations. I see that about you. That's amazing. Thank you. So let me ask this. How does that relate to our awakening and what's going on right now in the world?
Well, right now in the world, there's a lot of energies that have been shaken up, whether it's through feeling, it's just there have been a lot of polarized views. And because of that, it has been presented to us as us versus them. And that whole mentality of being, this is wrong, this isn't right, yeah, but that whole thing has got everybody in such a negative state. And they're so focused on what's going on in the world that they're not focusing on living their best life. And it brings them into that negative vortex of spiraling down instead of aspiring to live a life that spires up and reaches up to where we can elevate our energy, ourselves, other people. We can do more, we can expand more, grow more. And that's really what we're here to do, is to engage, play, love, laugh, enjoy this beautiful life, not worry about what everybody else is doing, not have a common enemy. There are no common enemies, and so I really believe that, especially this podcast, its time is right now, because we have to find ways to stay positive amongst the chaos around us, because we tend to jump into the world we see, not the world we want to create.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to add a little bit here, and then maybe, and I want to see what your thoughts are on this, because we're going to go into this a little bit later, but you were mentioning focusing on the world outside of us and how things are going out there and, all this stuff. What I find interesting from my own experience is that world out there has nothing to do with who we are. And when we focus on that world out there, especially if we've been traumatized, we create chaos in our own life and within ourselves. And so one of the lessons I learned was, as I've done my healing work, is to begin to focus within. And I wanted to, the very thing that popped into my head when you were talking about that was the movie Inside Out, which is why I didn't want to go into like exactly, because if you've seen it, it's about emotions and it's about enjoying life and it's about questioning yourself and it's about all this stuff. And now there's two of them. And they're both wonderful. And they're both very, very, very helpful to understand. Even as adults, it helps because even if because it's a cartoon, maybe that's why we connect better to it. But it's so important for us to recognize that focusing in is where the healing happens, not focusing on the outside of the world. The change has to start here. And what would you want to say?
I love that you said that because that really brings me into a topic I love talking about, and that's our duality.
Mm,
We start out as these beautiful beings of light, these balls of energy. We come down on earth to play, grow, expand. We're going to check it out. We're going to have some fun. And we get down here and we get put into a little body and we're like, yeah, we're going to learn those lessons. And because we forget that we're souls, everything that happens to us, whether it's be quiet or you have to do this or you got to get better grades or why didn't you do better? All of those things start making us connect with, okay, I need to. And that's where those emotions and parts come from. We have these parts that are telling us, don't do this, be afraid. And they all have those emotions, but these parts that are created trying to keep us safe really aren't keeping us safe. They're keeping us in our human. And when you say turn inward, you're absolutely right, because so many times we get so involved in, especially when you're a young mom and you're going through that phase of your life, you've got to take care of your kids, you've got to pay the rent, you've got all these little things you're trying to understand. Now I've got to learn insurance, now I've got to learn that. And all these things coming at you, which is why I love working with moms. But with all these things coming at you, you are so engaged in the human world that we get a little disconnected from our soul. And it is when we look inward and reconnect with our soul. And that's why so many people lose their passion. They're like, yeah, what I've got is good enough. I'll just settle for that. But they don't really have that spark of passion because they've disconnected from their soul. They're
mm,
existing in their humanity instead of saying, hey, I can be a human, but, this is what my soul came here to do. This is my soul mission, my soul purpose. I can't wait to do it. I know I can do it. And, I've got those doubts and fears and they'll keep me safe, but I'm doing this no matter what. So I'll take those emotions, I'll deal with them, and this is going to be a fun ride for all of us. And just like Inside Out, the movie where all these different emotions were different characters in this, let's take a ride. Instead of letting them stop you, let's take a ride. I'm going to show you kids a good time.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And just to give the viewers an idea, and this is again from my own perspective, it's like when I was growing up, music meant a lot to me. And I used to play the violin, the cello, the piano. I was in chorus, all this stuff. And I went to camp when I was young, and I had all kinds of traumas happen in camp, just real things going on for a 6 to a, 13-year-old. I used to love doing musicals, which is what we did in camp for the 2 months that we were there. They actually did 2 musicals a year. And if I was there the whole summer, I wanted to be a part of that. So every year, and I went to camp for many years, I would try out for these plays. And I loved to sing and I loved, and everybody said, or people said that I had a decent voice, except for these people at the, with the play. And I never got picked. It was always the camp owners' kids and the people who were related. It was, what do they call that in the business world? Nepotism.
Yes.
Yeah. So they always got picked, and I felt smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then by the time, now I was raised Jewish, so I had a bat mitzvah and I sang at my bat mitzvah. And then at that point in my life, at 13 years old, I completely turned away from music until 5 years ago when I brought it back into my life, and I went through a healing process with my music partner. And I mean, we get told, nope, you can't do that because you're not good enough. And when even if it's a dream that we have, and one person says that you can't do it, it sticks inside of you. Now, the challenge I want to share with you is that that's coming from their perception of it, not yours. But we as children don't understand it. So it sticks with us. And for me, 40 years later, I got back into music,
Beautiful.
right? And I
Beautiful.
had fun with it at the time. And it was a growth process. Yay, me. But
Mhm.
it was just interesting how that works because I had to go inside and I had to find that musician and that singer and that songwriter and all that stuff within me. It wasn't out here. It was never out there. And that's why I wanted to kind of bring that up to share that with you.
Well, and that happens because we are so conditioned to like turn our back on those four-letter F words, like fail and fear. Okay. And with that,
There's many more there's another four letter. Sometimes I like to say that.
I want to make sure your audience is listening. So, but with that, when it comes to failing, everybody's like, well, I don't want to fail. And we don't start off being good at things. I mean, think about just the simple act of tying a shoe, even though I think they've got Velcro now, and I don't know if they even tie shoes anymore. But, again, at first you don't even know that you're supposed to tie a shoe. Your mom does it for you. You don't even think about it. So you're incompetent, but you don't know that you're incompetent at it. And then you realize, wait, mom's tying it. I need to know how. So you're consciously
Mhm.
aware of your incompetence. And then as you start practicing, you start, you're doing it consciously, you're trying to do it. And then pretty soon it's just second nature. And that's just our way of learning. But everybody thinks of it as failing. And you would never say, oh my God, I failed at tying my shoes 300 times, so I gave up.
No.
But now we do because, again, we have been conditioned to
Yeah.
avoid failure and avoid fear. When fear can be one of your best friends if you let it.
Right. Well, you can talk to fear. It's like a guide. It's a guide for you. And I think that's really interesting because when you talk about failure, I've read information about Thomas Edison, who
Mhm.
who was working on inventing the light bulb, and failed 10,000 times. The thing is that when he was asked if it was a failure, he said no. It was just giving him an opportunity to see how to do it the right way. It wasn't a failure. So a mistake, or what we consider failure, is not failure. It's an opportunity to relook at it and do it differently. Right?
Absolutely. And a lot of that comes from, too, not just our own inner insecurities, but oftentimes when we are younger or teenagers or have brothers or sisters, sometimes they're not always really kind. So
Mm.
they will laugh at you when you do something wrong to make themselves feel better. And you take that as, why would they do that if there wasn't some truth to it?
There wasn't something wrong with me.
Right, right. And, we take that on ourselves. And the truth is, you might feel stupid sometimes, but that doesn't make you a stupid person. I do dumb things. Oh my goodness. Of course I do. I'll forget this. I'll do that. It's part of living. Okay. But it doesn't mean that we're stupid people.
Yeah.
And we want to separate that. And just like, when we're talking about fear, if my smoke alarm goes off,
Oh God,
I
don't.
don't take a bat and hit it with the bat and go, oh my God, I don't want to hear that noise. Instead, I go, okay, you're making a noise. What is going on? And I go and I check the house. And
Honestly, I'm
okay,
laughing at you because that actually happened to me at 4:15 this past weekend on a Saturday morning, and I'm sleeping there, and the smoke alarm wasn't going off. It started with the chirping thing, and
yeah.
coming out. At least it was a semi-pleasant way of coming out of a nice dream, good, decent sleep for a change. And I'm like, really? And then I can't reach it. I'm still working. I have an injured arm. I'm still trying to, work with this. Sometimes that hurts when I do I'm like, all these things start coming up. And here's the interesting piece that you said that was because I have done a lot of work on my nervous system, on myself, on the traumas, all that kind of stuff. In the last 3 weeks, it's even gotten more exponentially powerful and healing. And instead of going into like, yeah, when that happened, I did what you were saying. I got the chair out of my storage closet and I moved it over there. And I'm like, first I go, why are you doing this at 4:15 in the morning? I just had to. And then I'm
Yeah.
there like, okay, I can't stop it. I've got to call someone to stop. I don't know. I think it's plugged into the system. Turns out it was just a battery operated one. I mean, every little step that failed. Okay, I can't get a hold of someone to help me. So now what do I do? I'm climbing up. And then I can't see it. Then I'm like, all right, I'm going to take this off the wall. So I took it off the wall. I put it down. I can see it now because I'm half asleep and I can't see anyway at night. And I'm looking at this thing and it's like, press this button to reset. I was like, oh, really? Press the button and it gave this loud squealing sound, which was awful for me because the high sensitivity I have, and it stopped. And I'm like, okay, I got
I
it.
did, I did it.
I did it. But now, just in case it decides to do this again, I'm going to take this little disc and I've got a basket over here with blankets and a pillow, and so I could sleep. I shoved it under the blankets and the pillow just in case it decided to go off again. I closed my door, went back to bed, and my whole next day was off time. But
Absolutely.
learning experience.
But yeah, you're right. You hear the fire alarm, the first thing you do is check and see, is there a fire? Is there really some cause? If there is, run. If there's not, then maybe take the bat.
Take the bat or find the button. But
There you go.
these things create like this addition to the trauma in our bodies if it's already in there. And that actually, it's a good segue because I want to find this out about you. I shared a little bit about a trauma I had from my childhood with the music. Do you have a significant personal trauma or something you experienced that was a catalyst for what you do now? Or I mean, that we're getting back to you again instead of the fire or smoke alarm.
Yes, yes. It had always been in my nature to help people and do my best to support people, lift them up, let them see the best in themselves because I had been bullied all through growing up. And people always thought that, oh, she's the popular one, but the other popular girls, it wasn't that way at all. So with that, I'd always had the heart to do that. But through when as I went out on my own, one of the things I did was I played in a rock band for about 20, maybe 22, 20 some years.
This is the part I love.
Yes. We had such a great time doing it. We did release a CD. We got to open for Doobie Brothers, Kansas. We got to open for Huey Lewis and the News. Yeah, it was really great. We had such a great time playing, doing this, and a lot of local clubs. We played a lot at local clubs, and we were always booked. It was a great passion, something I loved doing, and my bass player came down with leukemia.
Hmm.
And he had been my best friend. He's the one who got me into the band and encouraged me. And, there was just something amazing about that whole process. And he fought leukemia for 7 years. And at the very end of his battle, we were in a hospital room, and it was him, his sister from California, and my now husband, who's my guitar player in the band. And as we're there, there was a time when just he and I were alone, and he knew he wasn't getting out of the hospital this time. It had become apparent that this was going to be the end for him. And he looked up at me and he said, Cass, I just got to ask you, have I made a difference?
Hmm.
And that question, not only did I, of course, rush to make sure he knew, yes, you have, and in so many ways, and tell him why, and make him feel good about that. But I asked myself that same question. It was something that stayed with me and kind of haunted me.
Hmm.
And even though I knew I'd made a difference in people's lives, people always said, oh my gosh, I love talking to you. You really helped me. My question became, did I make enough of a difference? How can I do more? And I know that in life, all success, whether it's financially, relationship wise, just being happy, having inner peace, all of those things center around mindset. And mindset is even 80% of financial success. Even though people are always busy doing to try to achieve success, yes, you do have to do action. but it's 80% mindset. And you can heal things with mindset. You can heal your body with mindset. And that's why I went back. And even though I have been doing hypnotherapy and had an amazing teacher, number 4 NLP guru in the whole world, I went back and took classes in Florida that required 500. I wound up taking about 600 for the only state licensed school in Florida to become a clinical and transpersonal hypnotherapist.
Now, when you say 5 and 600, I'm just going to clarify. Those are hours that you have to do in order to get your license or your certification.
The certification through my school, yes. Some people
For
can do
this,
like a weekend course or things like that, but I wanted to really, really know how to affect change. So the place that I went to is the only state licensed school in Florida, and they required, it was a full year of training, and they required time in person, time of learning over the internet, time of being there and showing your skills and demonstrating that you had proficiency in what you were doing, as well
Mhm.
as written exams. So,
Right.
um, yeah, I wanted to make sure that if people are going to trust me with their deepest feelings and their emotions, that I'm really going to be able to offer everything possible to help them make that transformation.
Wow, that's really powerful. I mean, that's a lot, you know. I mean, what happened with your friend in the band and all that. That's but it also maybe it was the catalyst that shifted your life and moved it into where you are now to help people. You know, I
Yes.
mean, I think catalysts, that's why I asked the question, because I think these catalysts are so interesting to hear about and to know and to be like, for those people watching, it's like you have a story. I had an interview with someone who does narrative therapy and some other things related to that, and it's like he talked about this catalyst thing. The story is the catalyst that changes us to move from whatever that thing was that we experienced into, well, we learned how to do it for ourselves. Now how can we do it to help other people? And I think that's so powerful when that happens. When that question he asked, do you think my life mattered? The
Yeah.
thing is that I want to clarify some of that too, that I'm learning for myself, is our life matters. We matter whether or not we do something. If we gave that one person a hug on that one day that they absolutely needed it,
Yeah.
that hug and your life mattered. It doesn't have to be this grand scheme of big stuff that you do. It can be a hug, it can be a smile to someone. And you watch videos, or I do. I watch videos a lot on YouTube just to get some inspiration and things to figure out what to do here. And they've got people on. There's this guy with a guitar, and he's got a stool that he puts in the middle of this public area, and he's plugged in, and he's got a sign that says "Sit here if you're having a bad day," and he's got pre words for the song that he's playing and singing about, whatever, and it just touches people. Like, that's enough. If you want to do something like that, your life mattered. If you want to just smile, like I said, smile at somebody, your life mattered.
Well, we have that inherent value.
Yeah.
And, I think what he was asking is, did I make a difference? Did I make my time here count? And
Yeah.
that's more in the doing. And I love what you're saying about stories, because what Caroline, everybody talks about changing beliefs. But the thing is, the beliefs come from the meaning that we give the events that happen to us. So
Mhm.
if something happens to us, and something as simple as mom going, hey, be quiet right now at a time, then that might make us, that means that I'm too loud, that I need to be quiet, that my voice doesn't matter. And
Mhm.
that those things that we think that means, the meaning that we assign to it, then that creates our beliefs. I don't have value. I'm not important. And
Nobody
that
wants to
creates
hear me.
emotions. I'm sad. I'm upset. I'm confused. I thought I had value. This doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm angry. What do you mean So all of those things are created from that initial story.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's why when we can look at that and go, and we can with our logical mind. And that's why I love hypnotherapy, because we can sit there and go with our logical mind, yeah, well, mom was just having a bad day. And I had a client who came to me, she had a fear of driving. And I can't say names, but I can say situations. And her thing was, one of the big things that came up in her life is when she was small, she was told she was able to eat anything she wanted to. She just couldn't, as long as she ate lunch and dinner, she was fine. So one day she found the Joseph's baby aspirin, and they're little and they're orange flavored, and she ate the whole bottle. And she went to her mom and goes, "Hey mom, we need more aspirin, more of these, okay, more of these candies." And mom's like, "What are you doing? Are you crazy? Are you insane? You're going to kill yourself. That was the stupidest thing ever. We're going to have to make you throw up." Made her throw up. And again, you can understand that's how Mama Bear is going to act, because my child is in danger.
Right,
But
right.
in that moment that she came to believe, I'm not very smart. Even if I think I'm doing the right thing, I'm probably not. I can't make good choices. I'm a threat to myself and others. And all of those beliefs. And she knew with her head, mom, she's just being mom. She was doing that. So her logical mind was like, yeah, well, that's normal. But that mind of a child, what she really needed. And again, so when we did this whole therapy, it was kind of rewritten as, how would you like to have seen that happen? And
Mhm,
what she really needed, she just needed mom to go, "Honey, I am so sorry. I
mhm,
am so sorry, but I should have told you. This is my fault. I have to do this really quick because you're in danger. It's my fault. I'm going to love you to pieces when this is done. You're my perfect little angel. Are you ready to go? And then I'll give you more love when we're done. Is that
mhm.
okay?"
Yeah.
And that would have, but again, when you're in panic mode, you don't think about, how do I choose just the right words?
Yeah, and while we're on this subject, I want you to back up just a little bit and let's touch on the emotion part of it. Is it important for us to allow our feelings to surface? And why? Because we experience these things, but we, as children, a circumstance like that, we're so scared that we just like, So can you go into why it's important for us to allow our feelings to surface?
It is. And that's why I love working with moms, because as parents, that's where it starts. We need to allow our children to have their feelings instead of teaching them to push it down, because a child is going to follow the lead of a parent. Even as a child, we need to, because think of it like a beach ball that you're trying to push under the water. It's
You
eventually going to come up and it's going to skyrocket into the air.
You keep bringing things up that match with. I actually have a video on YouTube of me doing that in the water at the beach, and a friend of mine's daughter recorded it, and I'm pushing. And that's what I talk about. It's like when you hold your emotion down under the water and you can't do it anymore and you let go, it's going to come up somewhere.
It's going to erupt at the most inconvenient time. And again, it's a matter of, okay, what are you feeling? Why are you feeling this way? And then starting right there, for anybody, and especially with kids, okay, well, something like this might make you believe, like if they come home from school and they're saying, "I didn't get picked for the team." Oh, that must feel really bad, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that probably wouldn't feel real good. And that might even make you believe that you weren't wanted. Yeah. Yeah, it does. Don't tell them not to believe it. That's saying your thoughts and feelings are invalid and don't matter. And you just address it. Yeah, I could see where that would feel that way, but really, can you see where the truth is? That maybe your skill is someplace else and you're better at gaming and things like that. And that would be the place you'd always be chosen first. Is this something that you want to pursue and get better at so you're chosen first, or would you rather just stay in your area of expertise?
Sure, sure, yes.
But again, parents aren't taught. There's no roadmap for these things. But yes, the feelings need to be acknowledged. And I'm sure you're a highly sensitive person too at HSP. And as a child, when you're in HSP, you're often told you're just being sensitive. And that is so.
Drama, too much drama.
Yes, it's like, well, yeah, I am. I'm not too sensitive. Actually, I'm the perfect amount of being sensitive because that's how I was made.
That's
So,
right.
knowing that, why don't you step up your game and learn how to help me then?
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of telling me that, I've got a problem and I've got to learn how to deal with it on my own.
Which, you know, it's not easy because it took me 55 years to figure that out, how to deal with it on my own. That's a long time.
It is because, again, there's so much confusion. When we're a child, we expect that guidance. And
Hmm.
when we don't get it, we get lost in confusion. And it seems to reiterate it's confirmation bias. When we believe, oh, there must be something wrong with me, and then something happens again, see? That's confirmation because
Yep.
at least we have the security. It's confusing because we know it isn't true, and that causes this imbalance in us. And at least we can have the balance and the certainty of knowing that this erroneous belief that is hurting us, not helping us, is true. So at least we have something that feels stable, as
Hmm.
twisted as that is.
Yeah, yeah. So in the process of healing that kind of thing, those experiences that we've had as children, it affects our nervous systems. The there's a process where if there's been a trauma, it never closes the loop because we were never able in that moment to either fight or flee or whatever, right? So there's this gap there where we've got this opening in our nervous system that allows all these things to re-traumatize us as we get older over and over and over again. So we had also talked about breath work. I love breath work. It has helped me so much. I want to know, why is it good to use breath work when healing our nervous systems from trauma?
Well, first of all, because breath work itself can help heal, even if you're just breathing to breathe.
Mhm.
Now, my model of doing breath work is a lot different than many people's, insofar as I have a lot of great breathwork practitioners out there that host group, where people are doing breath work or individual sessions. And then they will, depending on the area that acts up, they'll give you an affirmation to feel better. But again, affirmations work with the logical mind. So in my model of breath work, we do the 10-minute cycles. I check in what's coming up. And after each 10-minute cycle, we check in what is coming up. And we go a little bit deeper with our breath because we want to overstimulate the brain and let all that reasoning go aside so that they can hit the event and go back to that first time they were made to feel that way. So, as you know, for breath work, sometimes people just release things, they just get it out. And I've had people where they do the breath work, and inside of that 10-minute cycle, they start crying, they're getting things out, they're releasing things, and then they resolve it all in that one cycle to where it's like, do you want to process? No, I'm feeling good. I've
Mhm.
had people go into bliss bubbles. I've
Mhm.
had people connect with Octurians, beings from another dimension that have come in and breathed in information.
Mhm.
But where I love doing, where I feel I get great satisfaction is if somebody hits upon a childhood trauma where they hit that and they're like, their logical mind knows, hey, I just had, mom was right to yell at me about the aspirin. But their illogical mind is like going, no, mom, I didn't do anything wrong. Why did you yell at me? And then we can take that trauma and we can go through that whole healing process and what beliefs were created, but what is the truth? And knowing this truth, do you need these emotions? Can we just let go of them? They're totally irrelevant now because we know the beliefs aren't true. And if the beliefs aren't true, you don't need these emotions. And instead, can we just move towards these truths of knowing that you're amazing? You've done so much already. You can overcome anything. You're strong, you're safe. You can keep yourself safe. All these things, that people really need to hear that yeah, sometimes the world, things happen, but we have the ability to keep ourselves safe. We
Mhm.
have the ability to live outside of that box and break down some of those walls of fear and those things that we allow to limit us.
Mhm.
So I really love it. I get an extra satisfaction when we can clear those deep traumas out and let them see because so many times things people don't realize. I've had other traumas in my life, and just briefly touching on it, my only child was diagnosed with cancer and told he had 3 months to live or a
Mhm.
couple months to live. And we're past that, we're better. That's a whole different story, and we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But with all of these things, I've had people say, oh, but your trauma is so much worse than mine. And I'm like, please, please do not minimize your trauma.
Right.
Even a small thing for a child, like people go, I had a pretty good childhood. but your mom did this. She told you, I didn't really want you, but I'm glad I had you. And you went your whole life feeling unwanted. Please don't minimize. That is a trauma for a
Hmm.
child.
Hmm.
And it's not an intended one. So yes, you can no harm, no foul for your mom. You know, she's trying to build you up. See how much I love you. You're great. You're the biggest blessing I've had. But that telling you that you weren't wanted is going to, you know, that's going to stick with you.
Sure.
So that is a trauma. Don't minimize your trauma because, and I just want to, all the audience out there, if you're listening, don't think, well, what I went through isn't that bad because other people have had it worse. There's a person who's been this and that, or physically, or, you know, and don't think it isn't a big deal. If it's keeping you from living fully and completely and engaging in life with all of your heart, then yes, it needs to be healed. It is a trauma. And don't minimize yourself. You're too important. Your life is too important to
Yeah.
minimize any part of you.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, I want to clarify something because I think I heard you say this. You said something about not needing these emotions as you're working through the healing. And I know that emotions, and we've talked about this, and I've, emotions, we do need the emotions, but I want to clarify, I want you to clarify what you meant by that part of it. So for people who heard
Yes.
that too, like I did, maybe it'll help.
Yes. And thank you for that. But what I mean is, yes, we do need these emotions, but we don't need these emotions to overreact based on erroneous beliefs. So
Yes.
I need fear to keep me from walking into a fire, to keep me if I feel like there's something sketchy going on the other side of the street. I need fear to keep me aware, to keep me safe. I don't need fear to keep me
Tiger.
in a cage, okay?
Yeah.
I do need sadness because it tells me the value of my relationships, but I don't need to be engulfed in sadness.
Mhm.
So in correlation to those limiting beliefs, if you know that that limiting belief of I'm not good enough just isn't true, then you don't need to feel anxious or less than or not good enough. You don't need to feel those things. And those emotions of not good enough, those are emotions that we I don't know that we need them. We need to feel fear, but why would we need to feel not good enough? You know, that's just a non-truth. And
Right.
sometimes beliefs and emotions are the same. We can feel, you know, have a belief that we're stupid, and we can have an emotion of being stupid. So
Mhm.
it's those belief emotions that we can get rid of not being good enough, of not being strong enough, of not being capable enough.
It's all part of the work, the process,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so it's those, yeah, the emotion attached beliefs,
Yeah.
really. Yes, we do need sadness. We do need to feel these things to feel alive. We do need happiness. And even though we do need anger, because how else are we going to set boundaries? How else are we going to know that this isn't right for us? And if I get angry enough, I'm going to be strong enough to say something, even though I don't like confrontation.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Yeah. So I have one more thing I would like you to compare with the kind of breath work that you do and calming breath work because there to me my understanding is they're two different things. And
Absolutely.
like calming breath work is more a situational, I think, thing, but I'd like for you to go into more detail a little bit here.
Absolutely. And I love that I got to do a summit on this. And on the same day, Donald Neil Walsh was there at the summit. So it was kind
Oh,
of cool.
nice.
And I didn't get to meet him because it was online, but it was still super cool. And breath work is amazing. Breath work can be done at home. I did a whole thing on how to do breath work because you can do it from the comfort of your home, but you're not going to want to breathe as deep. You're going to want to have those nice, even breaths so you can stimulate your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous systems, get them rebalanced and back in harmony to where everything is working in a much more effective way, a more harmonious way. However, when it comes to the deep breath work, um, that is to resolve trauma. And that's when you go a little bit deeper with your breath work. And people will actually hyperventilate sometimes. It's like that feeling of, okay, I'm getting a little bit dizzy, I'm getting a little bit tingly, I'm getting kind of an out of body sensation.
Oh, yeah.
People that, well, when you're willing to go deeper with the breath work, and it's not comfortable. It really isn't. I've been in the chair. I've done it myself. And I know by my third round, I'm breathing hot and heavy because I'm like, I just want to get this over with. I
Right
want to hit
out.
gold so that I can find out what this, because in my case, it was a hidden block. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, we don't bounce back to an event, but there's a feeling and there's a feeling of injustice underneath it.
Mhm.
And we want to, what is going on with that? And we can sometimes hit the initial sensitizing event, and sometimes we just hit a place where I remember an event that really wasn't right. And again, you're going to have the same beliefs. So it's all about healing that beliefs through it. So I love breath work and I do it on my own here. But if I want to heal, if I feel like there's a block or a trauma or something, actually, Friday I've got a session with my go-to clinical hypnotherapist.
Nice, nice. Well, and you just I thought of something when you were saying that too, and with the difference between the calming breath work and the breath work that Cassie does, and that I've also experienced similar. So it is really powerful, but your decision is to want to go in and do this because it releases things so well.
Yeah.
But the difference to me is with calming breath work, like Cassie alluded to or said, you can do that on your own. It's like if you're going through something, you want to calm your nervous system down or whatever, you could do that. They've got box breathing. You can do uh, breathing into the count of four, holding it to the count of four, breathing out to the count of four, holding it to the count of four. So that's kind of an example of calming breath work, where with the kind of work that Cassie does, my assumption here is that you need a facilitator or someone to be there with you to hold space with you in order to work through that process. Where when you're by yourself doing that, it might be a little more challenging. Is that the case, do you think?
That is totally the case. And that is why, even in, group breath work where people are going a little deeper, I've had people say, I will never do breath work again. I went to a group thing, all these things came up, and then they said, okay, we'll say these affirmations and go. I'm using them with my logical mind, and I'm like, but that didn't help me.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yes, it can work and it can be helpful, but when things come up, you would want a facilitator there. And a perfect example is I had beautiful, gorgeous Hollywood actress as a client over Zoom, and she came to me for, I can't, I'm not going to say what issue, but when we did the breath work, she had just gotten done doing a movie where she had to do breath work for relaxation and balance and staying calm. But this was completely different for her. And she went back and she relived something and she came up with, oh my God, this is what has been driving me. And sometimes we'll go through that healing process, but just sometimes the awareness of this has been driving me can be enough. But sometimes you really have to go through the healing process. So that's why I say it's like a box of chocolates, Caroline. You never know what you're going to get, just like Forrest Gump might say.
Go.
You never know what's going to come out, but you want to be prepared
Yes,
in case they are going to that place to
yes.
be able to help them bridge that gap, because you never want to bring up something that you're not going to be able to
Oh,
help them heal.
100%. Yeah. And as people, as we go through our own healing journeys, we also need to be aware of that because sometimes now what I have learned is that our ego, which is actually a good thing, if you're not ready to experience certain things, it won't allow you to experience it anyway. However, you get to be aware of that. If you think something is going to be too much for you, then take care of yourself. If it does come up and it feels like it's too much, or like I've thought at times that it was going to be too much and it came up and I'm like, hallelujah, yay, it came out. So
Mhm.
you never know what kind of a situation it's going to create, because it could be the best thing that's ever happened to you, or it might hurt. However,
And
I will share that even in that pain, if you needed it, as long as you have a facilitator, if you can't handle it yet yourself with your tools, that you create or that you make yourself available to create that safe space in
yeah.
order to allow that to come up.
And one of the things I tell people if they're doing breath work at home is a good model is to just set the alarm on your phone for 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, just come up and check in and see how you're doing, see how you're feeling, make sure that you're okay, and maybe write a couple of notes on what's coming up for you, and then go back in and do another 10-minute cycle.
Mhm.
And that way, you're not so far, because you know, with breath work, time and space kind of disappears.
Yeah.
It just does. You know,
Absolutely.
you're off someplace else. And that way you don't have to be afraid of going too far down the rabbit hole because some people, you know, I've had them, you know, okay, I'm overwhelmed. And it's like, yes, okay, do you want to go on or is this overwhelmed the thing you want to work with today?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we talked on our first connection about something you called QEMT. Can you
Yes.
go a little deeper into that and explain how it works?
QEMT is a passion of mine, a deep, deep passion, because I know the power of EMT or eye movement therapy, especially for trauma. And my son he was a fireman in Colchester, Vermont, and now he's an EMT worker. And I know the trauma that these people go through of seeing terrible things happen, trying to help people, maybe not getting there on time. I mean, these are the deepest traumas, and these are our frontline heroes. And because of this, I took extensive classes in eye movement therapy, which is very much like EMDR.
I was
And
going to ask that.
EMDR is they've got centers everywhere that help people. But with eye movement therapy, the thing that's a little bit different is yes, you're doing that side to side, you know, of your eye movement at the same time, but it also hits all different angles. So we have different parts of our brain. So in that, you're going all these different things, and at the same time, you're also feeding them with all the positive cognitions that they need to have because we want to erase in EMDR. We want to say, what are those negative cognitions you have, and how strong are the positive cognitions? And we want to move you to a place where you're thinking in a more empowered way, where you've processed these things. And by bridging that connection between the right and the left brain, that's powerful. But when you're doing the other directions as well, you are connecting all aspects of your brain. Now, what I've done is I've modified even eye movement therapy and come up with a process where it is part eye movement therapy, part hypnosis, and part neuro linguistic programming, which
Interesting.
is what Tony Robbins and so many other greats use to make quick change with the mind. And so there are like swish patterns where you can take them through these visualizations, and especially if there is a particular traumatic event, there's a fear phobia model that you can take people through that softens that event. And I add cartooning to it, something to even soften it more. So I'll take that whole model and I'll throw, so I've kind of redone things and added the best of the best of the best to where people are like, wow, that problem, when I think of that picture now, it has taken away all of those fears, that emotion, that negative energy that I've attached to that picture.
Mhm.
And not only can I use this now, but it helps them in the future to be processing things in a new way too. So I'm very passionate about, now that the new year is here, going out and getting, you know, getting registered with cities because I want to do it in a retreat setting. It's so hard to go for a 2 hour session and come home and be back in the same things that are triggering you or have triggered you or
Oh,
established triggers.
yeah.
And if you can get a 3 solid days of doing nothing but loving on yourself, reconnecting with your energy, reimagining life as it can be, as you've cleared these things out of the way, you can get a kickstart of really locking in the vibration that you need to feel and bring forward into your life to really transform and change things on a permanent level. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited about doing this in retreat format, especially because, again, sessions are great, but I want a more meaningful transformation.
Yeah, that
My
makes
new
sense.
year, it's all about meaningful
There you
transformations, not,
go.
dealing with one little issue, just making that big change that will change a person's life.
Can you speak? Now, I'm a veteran, And I'm going to ask the question, can you speak to doing something like this process with, well, you mentioned first responders, and veterans are also in the same,
Yes.
realm. The combat veterans is a little bit different. Now, I experienced something called military sexual trauma, so it wasn't in combat, but it still affects the body similarly in certain situations with how the nervous system responds. So QEMT, and I've done EMDR. I have a therapist that has done EMDR with me, and it has helped immensely. He's now I don't. I think it's interesting that you were talking about doing these other directions because our synapses don't just go this way. They go everywhere. So that made a lot of sense to me. So I feel like this would be something that would be hugely powerful for combat veterans.
Absolutely. And I actually have one of my best friends that we talk and bounce ideas every couple of weeks. She works for a company, and the company gets funded by the government to take veterans away on different excursions. So she's gone to the Caymans, and they take them away for 5 days, and the government pays for this. So this is a private company that gets funded through the government to take veterans away, ones, especially ones with PTSD and who need to get away. And she goes to Arizona and Lake Tahoe, and they just go on these retreats where they get out of their norm, where they do things that they normally wouldn't be doing and break that cycle.
Mhm.
Because when you can break that state that they're in, it's easier to make changes. If
Yeah.
you're in that same rut, it's harder to pull them out of the rut than if they're, okay, this is something new and different, and their mind is open at this point. That's when you can really make change.
Yeah, especially when you're in nature. I think that's a
Yes.
huge component to healing process. And I have read about, because I've done my own research to find groups like this for myself. There's a lot of groups out there that do this. It's just being able to locate where they are, and that's been a challenge in and of itself. And not everybody does like consistent trips all through the year. It's like one time a year for this particular thing, and that sort of thing. But I actually have a friend who went, I want to say New Mexico or something like that with a group like this. It was up into the mountains. Maybe it wasn't New Mexico, maybe it was Arizona, but um, she, wow, her description of this was so empowering, and it like it creates an environment where you get to take a deep look at yourself and dive deep inside of yourself to find that person that you really are in there, because you're asked to do certain things that create that space to do that. So I think
Yes.
it's great. I really like that. I'll have to talk We'll have to talk a little bit more offline, and maybe I can get a link or information for that to put in the description too. If you.
Absolutely. I've got a whole page set up on QEMT, and especially for first responders, which includes veterans, it includes ER personnel,
Okay.
the things that they see too, those, and these are the people we need the most. We need them emotionally healthy as well as physically
Oh,
healthy.
tell me about it. Everybody can't be emotionally unhealthy all at the same time. Nothing's gonna work. Okay, so the last question on this part I wanted to know about is, you were talking to me about your program Becoming. I would love for you to give our viewers some information on what this is, because this sounds really cool. It's Becoming this year, correct? This is.
Becoming, this is a year for becoming.
Yes.
And the whole program I am so passionate about. It's actually turned into a two-part program. And the first part is claiming your magic. And that first part is a 6-week journey to getting rid of those limiting beliefs, to really seeing the truth and getting so clear with what your soul mission is. And I know we talked before about sometimes people, they lose clear, like, I'm not clear, because it's like, well, I'd be good at this, or this, but that's not really what they want. That's not what their soul is yearning for. So
Right.
the first step is just clearing away all of the limiting beliefs, clearing all this cloud so the sun can come down and shine on you. So just opening up that, getting rid of the negativity, learning how to deal with the emotions a little bit better, disassociation, things like that. And then really opening up the energetics of it too, getting in that energetic field and learning how to raise your vibration so you're in a place where you can manifest. And that is the first 6 weeks of the course. And then becoming extends out even further now that you've connected with your soul. What is your soul vision? What is your soul mission? And how can we make that happen? And just as we were talking about, there are different emotions, there are different parts of us, that part that tells us to be quiet, that part that tells us to be safe. So we want to run all of these inner people inside of us. We want to set inside out, up as a company. And if you have a company, everybody has a job, but everybody gets rewards for their job. So we get all parts of us on board because you know how it is, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And, whether it's the negative emotions, whether it's a part of us that says, look, you've been working hard, you deserve a day to play, just take this time off. Whatever that is that's going on, we want to get all parts on board for what are the goals. And
Mhm.
so when we can get that internal harmony and we know exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, we can move forward with, so we've got the manifesting there, we're vibrating at the frequency, we know what our path is, we have a clear plan to get there, and we stay vibrating in that frequency and we become the person. Because if I want to be a person that's 20 pounds lighter, chances are I'm going to have to do a little bit more food prep. I'm going to have to I'm going to put down those M&Ms, So if that is my goal, I have to become a different version of me. I have to be, step into that. And, even for some people, if I want to become the best version of me, maybe that means stepping up in different areas of my life. If I want better finances, maybe I need to get up a little bit earlier and work out and get my juices flowing and feel like I'm deserving and worthy of this. So becoming is all about setting up your personal goals, setting up your dream life and stepping into it. And I love that because, again, as a clinical hypnotherapist, I love helping people with singular problems and see them go. I mean, I love reading, my reviews, just not because it's about me, but just because I know that I have made that difference. Have I made a difference? Yes, yes, I have. And, that to me is my drive. I want to make a difference. I want to help people. I've been in that dark place and I don't want anybody there any longer than they have to be. But as much as I love changing issues for people, if I can give them that full transformation to take them from where they are to this life where they are just crushing it. And, you talked earlier about, we can make a difference just in being. And I like to ask people, well, what about what Einstein's mom did? And they're like, Einstein's mom, well, what is she known for? And I'm like, well, there was a time at school where they kicked Einstein out of school and said that he was too stupid to learn. And when he came home with the note, his mom read it and he goes, what did it say? It said that they don't have any teachers smart enough to teach you, so they asked me to teach you at home. And she did.
Oh my
Now, would
God.
Einstein have been the same if he had a different mom? If his mom would go, oh no, now I've got to teach you at home. No, she didn't do that. She was brilliant.
I did
That's
not know that. That's so cool. I love that.
Yes, he just thought differently than other people. And she goes, it says that they don't have a teacher that's smart enough to help you out, that you're too smart. So we're going to teach you at home and we're going to do a good job. And she did. And
Wow.
where would the world be if not for her? So we tend to think about, oh, we have to help people on a grand level. You don't have to be on a big stage to help people. That one person you help, you might not even know about it, but they might have gone into a third world country and set up an entire village with water. They might be doing missionary work that you'll never hear about because you have made that change by the smile, by that encouraging word. We all have that inherent value just in who we are. And yes, I love that you brought that up because that is something that I think that people need to remember. You don't have to do anything. Quit trying to prove yourself. There's nothing to prove. You're amazing just as you are. And if you can remember that you are already, I don't help people fix anything. I help people remember that they are already
Yeah.
perfect, whole, and complete, and
Yes.
they can accomplish anything that they want to. And if you need a cheerleader until you can be your own best cheerleader, I'm here for you.
Sounds like me. That actually brought tears to my eyes because I could feel the passion coming out of you. And I've thought these things going through my own process so many times, and you just kind of validated a lot of things, even for me right now, So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I love when stuff like that happens. I don't mind crying on here. Um, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much. I mean, that was very powerful, and I'm really excited for you. This becoming sounds amazing. Maybe we'll have to talk a little bit more about that. I don't know how many more things I can add to my plate. That might be a whole other uh, therapy thing about adding too much to my plate, but
The
whatever.
time is right, you will know.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I'm going to ask you some questions next that I ask everyone I talk to. And I love these
Okay.
questions because I love hearing the responses from people. So I'm looking forward to this. What does awakening mean to you at this time on the planet?
Awakening in relation to the planet, to me, it's just a time when people are realizing that there is more than just this little life that we live, that we are connected. And I know that when I talk to people, I ask them, what is your model of God? And for some people, it is this omnipotent singular being. And for some people, it is the collective of all of us. It's that omnipotence that we have when we are all connected together. And we are realizing that whether you think there's a singular God or it's the combination of all of us, that all of us together have got more power, and that it is all about vibration. And I love that everybody, for the longest time, it was physical health. And then people started talking emotional health. And now people are looking at energetic health.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's when we're talking about our soul health. And
Mhm.
when we can realize that it's not just our body, it's not just our mind, but it's our soul that we need to be feeding, growing, and nourishing. And that's the place where all the love that's going to cure it comes from, for me.
No, the reason I'm laughing is because you touched on all of my questions. So, so we're going to ask them anyway. So we
Okay.
specific. All right. So, what is soul divinity to you?
Soul divinity is just the fact that in our soul form, we are sheer perfection. We are this divine state of oneness. There's nothing there but pure goodness and light. And it is the trappings of the earth that changes us or that becomes challenging to, navigate. And that's why when we can stay connected with our soul and we can stay connected with that soul divinity, that's when, even when people do things to us, we stay in that place of, I understand. I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to have my boundaries, but I understand. And I don't even have to forgive you because ultimately there's nothing to forgive. You're just acting in your human, and I recognize that.
Mm, nice. I like that. That's beautiful. All right. So here's the next one you touched on. What is God or source to you?
To me,
Yes.
I believe in God. I was brought up Catholic, put in a Baptist school, and then went to a number of different places. And my mom now practices some forms of Judaism. So,
Interesting. You got the
yeah,
whole gamut in there. Okay.
all
Well,
of that is going on. To me, God is this incredible force of light. And I love the fact that there's a little bit of mystery there because people always talk about having faith. And you can have faith when you know something is going to happen. But faith to me is believing in something, believing that there's a higher power, a source that has your back, that really wants the best for you, that has got all these blessings waiting for you when you stop being such a human and open up to receiving them. When you put aside these little human things that you're so focused on and see, you know what, just look up, there are all these gifts right there. And I love that, I have had that religious background and that belief. But okay, what was the question again? Because I'm kind of getting lost in all these beautiful
what is
thoughts.
God or source?
Oh, so yes, I do believe in God, but I also believe that we are a part of God,
Yeah.
just as, when we are, the ocean and the drop of water in the ocean. I really do believe that we are 100% God and all of us together are 100% God.
That's right. Yes. See, it's a good thing you got lost.
Yeah, well, it always brings you back to where you're going. And sometimes I just have all these beautiful, when you ask an engaging question, I have all these beautiful thoughts that, just pop into my mind. And
And
like,
then your brain goes faster than your mouth can speak it.
yeah, it's just like I've got all this sunshine. I don't know where we were going, but I'm just feeling good.
Yeah, and I shared that with Cassie at the beginning because sometimes during these interviews, my mind just goes off into those places.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, 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 like a squirrel. Oh, and then
And
like,
I don't mind you bring me back on path. It's all good. It's part of the fun.
yeah, exactly. The next question is, what is unconditional love?
Unconditional love, in my mind, is saying that I am going to love you no matter what, and I am going to see your soul. And one of the big things that I have to ask people when working with traumas, because traumas generally come from people or events that involve other people. And one of the big questions is, can you separate this person from their behavior? Because if we separate them and see a person's higher self, there is nothing but love. They don't mean to do the things, they're just trying to figure it out. They're just dealing with their own things. And I have to believe that whatever they are doing that, makes me feel like I've got to have unconditional love. It's like instead of just love, okay, okay, I can love them even though they're doing this. So whatever it is that they're doing, I've just got to trust that that is something that I need to see to make me a better person. And that is where I'd like to differentiate between faith and trust. We can have faith that God is there and He's got our back, but do we really trust Him when times get hard? And so I think it's important to have both. And when you do have faith and when you do trust that everything is happening for your higher good, and somebody does something to us, you can love them unconditionally so much easier because you're not letting them affect you. You're recognizing this is just their behavior
Mhm.
and I can love them unconditionally. And again, I do want to say that doesn't mean you don't set boundaries because you can love somebody unconditionally and know that they are not good for your energy, not good for you. They're just not at that place yet. And there's not a good guy, there's not a bad guy. There doesn't have to be. It's just a matter of right now we're not vibing, and this vibe is not in my highest and best good. And if it's a family member, you might have to bump into them, but you can minimize the time and just protect yourself, from that kind of behavior. And, say, I can be here for you, but I can't be here for you if you're going to use me as a punching bag or if you're going to disrespect or do those things that just aren't called for. So,
Mhm.
you can have unconditional love, but at the still time, have those boundaries. Because if you don't respect yourself, they certainly won't.
Well, and I want you to add a little to this, but because I'm going to ask this question, I always follow up when I don't hear the keyword. Me being the writer, I'm always listening to the keyword. What about unconditional self-love? As short and succinct as you can.
As short and succinct as I can, unconditional self love is something everybody should aspire to. That is a key to freedom. If you can love yourself no matter what, you will love your life no matter what. And that comes from being in alignment with your soul, being connected with God, trusting Him, having faith in Him or her and the universe, or however you call that higher source.
Beautiful. That was right on. There you go. Thank you for that. So, and on that note, how can people get in touch with you?
You can actually, I give out my cell phone number. I want people to be able to reach me directly. So that is 561 843 4243. Or if you hop on my website, Cassie at well, that'll be email, is Cassie at CassieEubank.com, or just CassieEubank.com. Check out the website. I've got some freebies there, got some new ones coming out having to do with manifesting, more gratitude stuff coming out. But connect with me, and I know we're going to have links in the description, so check that out. And check out my Manifesting Like a Mother group. That's going to be a lot of fun too, as we talk about all the different ways that we can raise each other up and elevate our life so that we can be happier, more productive, give more, live more, and be happier.
That is so cool. I'm writing that down. Manifest like a mother. Now that's a good play on words since you work with moms. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I
And
love
actually, I've got it manifesting because I want people to be in the process of it,
that. Manifesting like a
So
mother.
I thought on that one. I'm like, no, manifesting. We're doing it. We're not talking about it. We're doing it.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Cassie. I appreciate that. And is there anything else you want to add or share with the audience before we go?
Just please be kind to yourself. Remember, you have been through so much. You have been through so many challenges. There have been so many things that you have overcome. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Remember, you are more amazing than you realize, and you are perfect in every way. Give yourself that grace to just love on yourself and realize you are doing great.
Whether you think you are or not.
Exactly.
Exactly. So thanks, Cassie. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here and watching and sitting with us in this conversation. Really appreciate you. And Cassie, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here and sharing this time with me. I'm so grateful. And just thank you for being here on Awakening Soul Divinity
Thank you
podcast.
for
All
having
right.
me. I am so grateful to be here. Thank you, Caroline.
Yes, you're so welcome. Take care, everyone. Peace.